Hello guys, welcome. It's Friday, it's 19th of January 2018. This is Dax Technical Analysis Summary. We've just been talking about the DAX and the FTSE in the premium webinar, and we're just about to move on to the programming side of the webinar. And so we're going to just have a look at what we've discussed already so far. So the dominant picture at the moment on the DAX has been this one, which is the expanding pivot play. For the last couple of months, this setup has been forming, and we've had this major impulse leg that shot up from EP4 to EP5. We've now had a reaction at EP5, and we were expecting for price to come down towards this balance area here, which is about 1350. But in actual fact, we've had a reaction higher than that, somewhere around about the 140 level. The questions now are we able to confirm that we are now perhaps finished with this reaction leg here, which is the peel away from the expanding pivot 5 up here? Are we now ready to continue with maybe another impulse leg higher? And the only way we can confirm that is if we take out 425 here, and then obviously onto a new all-time high. So we're watching out for that. Today, we've taken out 350, which was quite a key area. When I say take out, we've tested it rather than taking it out, which was this little zone here from the previous high, where we had an immediate reaction last time round. We made a bit more progress. We pierced to a new high here, but we are potentially going to walk straight into another wave of sellers. So we need to be careful. Buying up here is probably not going to be the best idea. What else did we discuss? So we talked, I'm just going to go over to my other chart here. We talked about this particular chart here, and the basis of this chart was that it is now a lot closer in than the daily chart. However, the buyers are in control at the moment in the short term. On this particular board, the major swings are high highs, high lows, with maybe barely, I was going to say with the exception of this one here, but it did actually print a higher high, higher low, shall I say, than this previous section here. However, I've drawn a multi-pivot line here because I like the way that price was responding to the underside, and of course when it broke through to the top as well. This particular fork is interesting because the center line is good, and we have tested the median line a couple of times, failed to really make that much progress above it, retraced back to the median line parallel, the lower median line parallel, and found a reaction. One of the guys in the group said there was an opportunity to buy around about this time this morning, and that may well have been the reason, looking at this analysis. So since then, we've kind of taken out the median line. We've bounced off of the median line from the top, and you'd imagine that we'll be looking to head towards the upper median line parallel as a target. So we'll see how that plays out. One of the other charts we took a look at, another example of pretty much the same idea there was, I believe, this one. And it cuts the lower median line parallel tag a little bit closer. So you have to wonder whether or not we're going to have an equal size mini reaction leg here. Sorry, a mini size impulse leg here to continue its move up here. And then maybe those two minors will complete a major impulse leg. So I'm watching out for that, but we'll see. At the moment, finding a little bit of resistance around that 350, 360 zone. Okay, the R2 for today is around 370, so we're just under that at the moment. Another reason why we might be finding a little bit of resistance. I think what we talked about on this particular chart was an opportunity for a reaction up here, and maybe if we were going to be buying, to buy from a test of the daily pivot. So keep an eye out for that for today. The daily price movement range is somewhere around about 130 points. So have a look and see how many points we've already moved today, and then sort of start to get an idea as to whether or not it's realistic that we're going to continue that much higher for today. And the other thing we mentioned was this weekly chart, which has just really kind of reset our focus. And for the last 18 months, even more, 24 months, and we've been forming these kind of pivot components on these swings. And what I found interesting is that they exhibit particular behaviors, which is similar. So if you highlight these pivot components and zoom into them, you'll notice that it generally tends to sell low and then washes the low before continuing. tends to set a low and then washes the low before continuing, sets a low and then washes it before continuing. So we're wondering now whether this is actually the major pivot component, and perhaps this may be the start of a continuation of that major impulse leg, which will be similar to the size of this previous one. So you'd have major impulse, reaction, another impulse. So we will see how that plays out. All right, we also looked at the FTSE, and if we just continue to, there it is, talk you through what we looked at here. The daily chart, again, we've highlighted the pivots here. We've got a median line, which is interesting because we have reacted from the C point after a touch of the lower median line parallel up towards the median line, zoomed through the median line, didn't quite test it on the way back down, but we may well be doing something similar to that at the moment. And I found an interesting little doji there, which I've just drawn a line from the top, 50 line through the doji, just to kind of see roughly whether or not we get a reaction at this kind of extension here. And this line I've drawn is just a very, very basic potential interesting multi-pivot line that comes through these candles here. So I'm watching that as a reaction of confluence of areas with the median line as well. So interested in potentially what, 76, 75, somewhere around there. Or alternatively, if we do get a deeper reaction here, then 7,600 is potentially a good spot that I would like to be watching for a buy. Why are we selling off at the moment? Difficult to say, but I know there's a lot of speculation around the Brexit implications for the financial service industry. And of course, that has quite a big bearing on the UK economy and some of the components of the FTSE 100. The 60-minute chart, we were looking at our multi-pivot lines, MPLs, and just sort of like playing with the idea that if you just take a line from any pivot on the chart, it's any kind of major high or major low as you zoom out, and this is a 1 hour chart, then you can start to see whether or not price touches and reacts on the line. So for example, I took a line from this particular pivot down here and just sort of play with it, have a look at joining it up with other pivots to see whether or not price responds and bounces off the levels. And I found one potentially just there, as an example, bounce, 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 reacts from underside, reacts from here. That's potentially a good example of an expand and reverse type trade as it reverses on this line and kisses it goodbye. Another example of one is here. And I wonder if this does retrace, whether that's an interesting area that it might look to test again. So that was what we were talking about earlier. And if we wanted to short the market to play that idea, then maybe a bounce off the underside of this ACR is interesting. This ACR line set is based on a median line, a push line here. So you've got tag, 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 all these different touches, broken. And a previous point of action was this level up here. So if you expand that distance on the same, again, downside, you'd have expected some kind of reaction at this line, which we sort of got here, but we've since broken it now. So maybe a test of the underside of that line could be interesting for a short. So we'll see. So that is what we've been talking about for today. So just to kind of summarize on the DAX, we're looking for opportunities to get long, as we have now quite comfortably taken out 350 with that extra 20-point zoom that we've just seen there while I've been talking. Looking for spots to do that. Potentially an idea would be to wait for a retracement back to the point of ignition, which is somewhere near the daily pivot for today. Hope that's interesting, guys. For now, we're going to jump straight into the coding part of the webinar. We're going to start building our own DAX Trader EA, which is going to be able to provide us with alerts. So by the end of this session, we will be able to have the basis of our program. All right, guys, have a nice weekend. See you back on Monday, and take care.